Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are pleased to welcome you to all. We are pleased to welcome you all to the side event, boosting ambition and implementation of NDCs through circularity, a practical toolbox. This event has been co-organized by the United Nations Development Programme, UN Environment Programs, One Planet Network, and the UNFCCC Secretariat. My name is Daniel Inti, a youth advocate and a campaign strategist, and I'm delighted to be your moderator for today's session. Thank you. We are honored to have you with us, every distinguished panel. But before we kick off the discussions, I'm pleased to share with you an explainer video that dives into the joint UN project building circularity into nationally determined contributions to give us a flavor of why this project started and what it's all about. So, ladies and gentlemen, the screen. That was a very informative video. I hope you all loved it. Great. So I would like to call on the Director of Climate Policy for Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate, Government of the Netherlands, in the name of Nils Castellane for the keynote address. Can we all give it up for him?
Thank you, Chair, for kicking off the meeting, which is at the end of the first day after the rest day. I've only been here for 2 days so far, so I'm not that tired yet, and I even had a rest day yesterday. I hope you have all rested a bit yesterday, so you still have some energy left for the second week of this COP. Distinguished colleagues and guests, the Netherlands is proud to join this event, this side event, in order to launch the toolbox, which is meant to integrate the circular economy into the NDCs, as we formally call it. And we thank, amongst many others, UNDP, UNEP, and UNFCCC for their joint work on this toolbox. And we are also proud that this toolbox has been, let's say, tested and launched at for example, the MENA Climate Week, and which has received very positive responses there. So we are very proud to be a part of this initiative also. And for me personally, as a climate policy maker, it's a bit of the holy grail to integrate circularity into the climate policy and vice versa. Because I've experienced that the circular economy, circularity, is kind of trying to connect the dots between climate, pollution, waste, etc. And they're all necessary to build a greener planet, for which I'm personally very motivated, and that's why I'm doing this work. And I've also experienced that it's pretty hard to integrate those things in practicality, because the climate policy has some, in a sense, very clear goals and pathways towards, we talk about net zero, for instance, etc. And while circularity is always a bit of a kind of vague term which can encompass very many things, but it's very hard sometimes to make that very specific and translate that into policy measures. So I hope very much that the toolbox is an important step into making the policy instruments, but also the measures taken, more concrete, so that we can actually integrate them finally into NDCs, which is important on the climate side of a greener planet. So I'm very happy that this toolbox has arrived. And maybe I'm preaching to the converted here, but we define the circular economy sometimes as a secret weapon in achieving our climate goals. And just to set the context as we understand it, about half of the total emissions, global emissions, is related to the extraction, processing, and consumption of materials. Improved resource efficiency alone could reduce the ever-increasing annual global emissions in 2050 by 20% compared to existing trends. And that's a big share. So we want to go for that goal, for that direction. And we've also discovered that like climate policy is difficult because it's, of course, international, but you could do it sometimes at a national scale, but like the road to a circular economy requires worldwide cooperation, because value and production chains are international, not only continentally international, but all over the place. So we need to work together to build circularity into our policy instruments and to get it working. So to reap the benefits of a circular economy, to make it possible, we need to work together, and this toolbox is one of the avenues through which to do so. The toolbox outlines practical steps, which were mentioned in the video also. So I read the manual of the toolbox, which includes those steps, but I hope if you click on, that it will be even more specific and helpful in making policies and measures and taking measures. So as we go into the next phase of this toolbox, because it's launched but never finished, so to speak, we'll need all of you, all the parties, all the countries, also CITRA, which was also an important part of the development, to continue working on the toolbox, because as we start using it, we learn what's working good and maybe not so good in the toolbox. So hopefully it will be improved, because improvement means something has been used and tested. And let me again stress the importance of putting in all of your energy together, and of UNEP, UNDP, and UNFCCC in order to make that process work. So we look forward to working with all of you here in the room and worldwide in the next phase of the project. Thank you very much, and hopefully our colleagues will be able to use the toolbox very efficiently over the next few years. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nails, ask that you kindly take your seats. Thank you. Can we have the Senior Lead Sustainability Solutions, CITRA, the Finnish Innovation Fund, in the name of Tuli Haitan and Niami? I hope I got the name correct. Great. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. That was close enough. My name is Tuuli Hietaniemi from Finland, from the Finnish Innovation Fund, CITRA. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, it is an honor to be here today. And I would firstly like to thank you, the UNDP, UNEP's One Planet Network, the UNFCCC Secretariat, for inviting me to deliver this keynote on behalf of the Finnish Innovation Fund. I want to start with CITRA. It is the Finland's future fund, we like to call it. And coming from such a future-oriented organization, I would like to start with this free guided tour to the future. So I hope you don't mind if you would just all close your eyes for 1 minute. Go on. Thank you. So now that you have closed your eyes, you can take a deep breath, and I welcome you to the 8th of December 2033. It's 10 years from now, and you're starting the second week of COP38. And in the morning, before you have arrived to the blue zone, you have been queuing, but not yet. In the morning, having your coffee or tea, you have gone through your country's NDC. And you feel really proud of all the circular economy actions included in the NDC. Your country has done a marvelous job in cutting its emissions and its impact on nature, and you're eagerly looking forward to another day of negotiations. Looking back, it feels amazing how fast circular economy eventually replaced linear economy. You can now take a deep breath. Thank you, and you can welcome yourselves back to 2023. And you can open your eyes. So the future that you just visited, and many others, are possible. And we all here, we have power to influence them. So if you want to give something from this event, I want you to remember that we have the power to influence the futures. We can choose what happens. And I think this NDC toolbox is one way that we can influence the future. So that's why I'm really proud to be here today. At CITRA, our work aims at finding solutions to climate change and biodiversity loss and overconsumption of natural resources, so very similar to the previous speaker. And we think that a key solution is circular economy. However, a better future, as the previous speaker also said, it is a team effort, and no one can make this major change happen alone. And this is why we're really, really excited to have supported and contributed to this Building Circularity into NDCs project. And we feel that it offers countries a concrete tool, both in achieving their climate targets and in building resilient economies. We from CITRA, we have shared best practices from our circular economy journey in Finland, and at the same time, we have also learned from others. So it's not one way, it's two ways. In 2016, Finland was the first country in the world to publish a national circular economy roadmap, and it has guided our journey towards circularity. In 2020, CITRA published a guide for creating national circular economy roadmaps, which is now included in the NDC toolbox. Looking ahead, I think continuous development, regional adaptation of the toolbox is crucial. But moving forward, the most important thing is to align circular economy solutions with the biodiversity agenda. So circular economy can significantly reduce resource extraction and lessen impacts on natural habitats, species, and ecosystem services. So I think if we want to combat climate change, we also need to tackle nature loss. And if we try to solve this separately, we will fail in both. So it's of utmost importance to include nature. In conclusion, the challenge of the climate crisis has never been bigger, and to tackle this challenge, we need all the tools available. And this NDC toolbox is a milestone in international collaboration and climate action. So now let's open the toolbox, take out the tools, and use them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I'd have you take the next seats. We're moving on to our first panel discussion, and on stage would call on Miriam Hinostraza, Head of Unit Global Climate Action, UNEP. Thank you so much. Let's give it up for her on the panel. Sorry. And then the Global Director of Climate Change, UNDP, Cassie Flynn. Let's give it up for her. Can we make it resound a bit more energetic for her? I mean, I like that. Thank you very much. And then we move to the last person, Lawrence Mashungu, NDC LEDs Expect, Regional Collaboration Center for Eastern and Southern Africa. You're welcome, Mr. Lawrence. Great. Okay, so we'll start. I'll turn to Mr. Lawrence first. Can you tell us the status of the circular economy in the latest NDCs and how you see the need for capacity building efforts in order to further integrate circular economy into revised NDCs?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. All right, thank you. Right. I'm coming from the Regional Collaboration Center in Kampala. Maybe a bit of what they are. We have 6 regional collaboration centers of the UNFCCC across the globe, and these regional collaboration centers are helping in terms of coordination of action with practitioners, because as a UNFCCC, you know, we work more closely with partners around to ensure that we deliver to countries. So yeah, we have those collaboration centers, and we are there for countries and also for partners. Right, coming back to the question, we understand the NDC synthesis report, the LT-LEDs synthesis report, together also with the global stocktake. All these documents converge the fact that we still need to do more in terms of climate action, which is very important. And also that when the NDCs were communicated, we understand renewable energy, pitched, agriculture, and a lot of other issues possibly maybe related to circular economy, but maybe basically around waste and other on the downstream part of it, and maybe not on upstream. But the NDC so far communicated, according to the NDC synthesis report, 28% of the NDCs talk about circular economy, but not as robust in terms of going deep into the values embedded into the products per se, but more around waste reduction around that, and maybe not on the upstream as such. Which means the way we see it is that the first implementation of the current NDCs provided the opportunity to see things, some of them which are under the table, which is something which is currently happening right now, where we are saying this is something that is hidden, but we definitely need to catch it. So I am seeing the need now for capacity building for such to ensure that those issues are involved in the next generation of the NDCs. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence, for your perspective. We'll move to Miriam, UNEP, and its One Planet Network. And its One Planet Network have done a lot of work on circular economy and sustainable consumption and production, as well as other important relevant topics such as transparency. What do you think is unique about this toolbox to advance this important work? How can UNEP and the joint partners further support countries with methods for increased transparency to track and report their circular economy interventions?
Thank you very much for the question, and good evening, everyone. Very nice being here, surrounded by partners and our donors who have contributed to the development of this toolbox. I accompanied the development of this toolbox not from the substance side, from the circular economy, but from the NDC side. I am actually representing my colleagues from the One Planet Network, who have been behind the development of this toolbox. And if I go back to history, it was actually with one colleague of mine that retired from UNEP that this toolbox was originated, and with some seed funding from the Netherlands, and then CITRA joined and that. So I think I'm mentioning this because it's always nice to acknowledge people behind it. And on top of what have been already said, I just wanted to say who is in UNEP's side behind the development of this toolbox. And again, it is the Secretariat of the 10-year Framework on Sustainable Production and Consumption and the One Planet Network. And it is an interesting framework that has been established by the United Nations General Assembly, and which mandate is actually to spearhead initiatives in this field of sustainable production and consumption, and with a special focus on circularity. And those of you that work with this, it's circularity and circular economy concept is quite broad but also complex. So with this toolbox, we have tried to bring together several tools that can help countries to identify additional opportunities for emission reductions. I think we are set that the solution to climate change, especially from the mitigation side, it relies on renewable energy and energy efficiency. And some statistics say that 55% of that solution comes from this field, but the additional 45%, because the world will continue producing cars, clothes, food, etc., medicine. So that 45% should come from circular economy. So my colleagues in UNEP, including those groups of colleagues that are working with the science part, have been contributing to the development of this tool. So there is And that's only one person who I would like to acknowledge, Kati Tak, that has been behind it, but she's been coordinating with a number of other colleagues in UNEP, but not only in UNEP, of course, in UNFCCC and UNDP, and the idea of coming together, these three UN sister agencies, is actually to be able to provide this tool that is going to be useful, implementable, actionable. Not one more tool that is going to go to the shelves and be there. So it is also enriched by real cases, and it's being, I think you mentioned that this was launched in the MENA Climate Week. Not only that, but in 2 climate weeks, the team, including Alana and Kati, they organized workshops, dedicated workshops with selected invitees from countries who shared this, how far they are with applying or implementing circular economy and how best they are trying to connect this to their NDCs. So the tool is enriched with those case studies as well. It's not just a collection of existing tools and methodologies. So I think that's the uniqueness of this tool. Again, thank you very much to our donors. I think going forward, we have to not only develop continuously and including additional tools that are still being developed outside. More importantly, I think what we need to be focusing on an extended phase is how to measure all the emission reductions that will be happening along the cycle of circularity. So you may have heard us these days, we are negotiating, or countries are negotiating, how they are going to pay the cost of reporting, the tracking and the achievement of NDCs. It's not only reporting. So there is the Article 13, which is the Enhanced Transparency Framework. It's a number of steps that countries need to take, including developing their national inventories. And behind that, there is a tremendous work that countries do. They have to report the progress of NDCs. They have to report how much finance they are receiving and how much funding they need to implement all this. In addition to that, the process includes a revision of those reports to the Secretariat. All those things have costs. Obviously, somebody needs to pay those costs. So in these negotiations, they have been discussing how to afford those costs, in addition to developing expertise in countries for experts to use the tools, and including this one, but those coming from the process as well. So going forward, we need to bring all those negotiated items in the Enhanced Transparency Framework to the circularity. Already in the non-circular economy, tracking progress is already very complex and very difficult. So using those tools, those formats, those guidances in circular economy is going to need a dedicated attention as well. So going forward, the idea and the objective is to develop that part of the process, to be able to measure how much emission reduction actually is being contributed by circularity approaches.
Thank you. Excellent, Miriam. Let's give it up for her. Thank you. Before we move to Cassie, I humbly want to remind you, you could scan the QR code to explore the toolbox. Thank you. So, Cassie, UNDP, under its flagship initiative, the Climate Promise, is supporting over 140 developing countries to enhance and implement their NDCs, serving as the world's largest offer to support NDCs to developing countries. How important, from UNDP's perspective, is circular economy in supporting countries to reach their climate targets and sustainable development goals?
Thank you so much, and it's such a pleasure to be here. Given it is after the rest day, we are halfway through these negotiations, and if you've been in these negotiations a while, you know this is the moment where the negotiations get tough. And so to be here talking about solutions, being here talking about, dare I say, signals of hope, is really, really fantastic. So it's such a pleasure with UNEP and the One Planet Network, UNFCCC, Netherlands, Citra. We are really sort of one family in this. And I think at these negotiations, over these last days, weeks, months really, we've gotten a fair amount of difficult news, right? We know that hottest July on record, hottest August on record, hottest year on record. And we know that we also have a lot of solutions that are out there. You know, UNDP has been supporting 85% of developing country NDCs. And we're seeing countries start to take really bold decisions. Every single NDC has an energy target. Nearly every single NDC talks about adaptation, and a majority of that is in agriculture. We have 90% of NDCs talking about nature. There's some bold moves, and now the question is, how do we turn those targets into real action on the ground? How do we make this real? And this is where circular economy is so important. Because we can talk about a pledge on agriculture, but one of the most important things is, how are we growing our food? How are we processing our food? How are we consuming food? How is food in the waste system? And what does this look like? When we talk about building a green building, where are we extracting our materials? How are we building it? How are we disposing of materials? What are these processes in place? And this is where circular economy is so much about this connective tissue of a lot of these big, bold moves that we know that countries have to make. And I think here too, we've been able to see, as a part of this work, we've been able to see some really interesting benefits from taking a circular approach. In Laos, we know that by using circular economy approaches, they would add $16 billion to their GDP and create 1.6 million circular economy jobs. That's incredible. As we are talking about what a successful economy of the future looks like, we know that making some of these big choices on circular economy can help accelerate that in the way that we know that we need. Now on NDCs, this COP represents something very important. And this is really the beginning of the journey toward 2025, right? The first NDCs came in 2015, second round, 2020, 2021, a little bit of flexibility there over COVID. And now this next NDC needs to come in 2025. And this is the moment, right? This is when we lock in our future. And so really thinking about at this moment, these NDCs that need to be developed over these couple years' time before we get to COP30, these levers that we have, circular economy. Circular economy being embedded in NDCs can be one of the most powerful things we can do to be able to achieve some of these goals that we know that NDCs have to have. And this toolbox, it is practical, it is interactive. Our lead on this work, Alana Cragen, who is standing right there, I was quizzing her all about this toolbox. I really hope that you do the QR code, check it out, because it is so cool. It is very practical, it is very hands-on, and it helps with the how in a very simple, practical way that is impactful. And so as we look ahead, we are just so pleased between the toolbox, and I know that there's been a series of workshops that have been happening. There's support on the ground for a number of countries, and we really want to build with this. We want to move into the future and really embed circular economy in the DNA of NDCs, not only because it is an immense opportunity, but also because it's just really smart. It's just a really impactful way to achieve these NDC targets. So please, I encourage everybody to join this conversation. We need all hands on deck for it. Please come on this journey, this circular economy journey with us, and really looking forward to the further conversations today. Thank you.
Great. We've come to the end of the first panel session. Let's give it up for them as they take their seats again. We'll be photographing at the end of the second panel session together. Thank you very much. The toolbox is indeed an impactful resource to meet the ambition of the NDCs. We move to the second panel discussion. Joining us on stage, we would have Doba Lovemore, who is a Deputy Director, Climate Change Mitigation, Ministry of Environment, Climate, Tourism, Hospitality Industry from the government of Zimbabwe. Next is the Deputy Director General, International Cooperation Department, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, in the name of Pham Kwan Hai. My earnest apologies if I got the name wrong. I think I had it right. Good, all right. And then we have the Deputy Director General for International Policy, Government of Germany, Eka Hertz. Then we have a representative from the government of Vietnam. Oh, my apologies for that. My apologies once again for that. Okay. Great. It's a pleasure to have you all here on stage. I'll start with Doba, Mr. Doba. Sir, as one of the three piloting countries of the toolbox, could you kindly highlight from the perspective of Zimbabwe your tentative plans and potential benefits of piloting the toolbox? How do you plan to integrate circular economy into the revised? Could you kindly highlight from the perspective of Zimbabwe, your tentative plans and potential benefits of piloting the toolbox? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. It feels quite refreshing to be led by a youth who is very articulative and is interested in circular economy.
Thank you.
Zimbabwe is actually very much excited to be part of the first three countries that have been privileged to pilot the circular economy toolbox. Zimbabwe has its revised NDC that was completed in 2021 and is currently under implementation. And to date, through the Climate Promise 2, we've also gotten support to make sure that we develop an investment plan for the NDC, the revised NDC. And issues of circular economy are actually evident in the document, and I agree with the previous speakers that what we are missing is the mentioning of circularity issues, the actual mentioning of the word circular economy in the NDC. And I think this is one thing that has been making it very difficult for us to relate issues of circularity in our NDCs. Be that as it may, the piloting of this toolbox in Zimbabwe is going to come as a very big advantage to us. We've been doing a lot, especially under the waste sector, with the environmental management agents leading from the front. But what we have picked is there are also quite a number of other opportunities across the other sectors. I think one big realization that we have made is across the 17 mitigation actions that we have in our revised NDC, there is an opportunity for us to be able to move issues of circularity. And with the coming in of carbon trading, we are one of the countries that actually leading from the front in terms of ensuring that we put in place enabling environment for carbon trading. We've developed the framework for carbon trading in Zimbabwe that has since been adopted by Cabinet, and recently we also gazetted a regulatory instrument. And I think with the coming in of circular economy, we have a strong feeling and conviction that this is going to assist us a lot in terms of raising innovative financing for climate action. So, if anything, circularity is a big opportunity for us to be able to raise the much needed financing. So, in terms of the actual implementation as part of the pilot, we have certain issues that we have isolated for prioritization, one of which is ensuring that we really ramp up issues of innovation and entrepreneurship through our institutions of research and learning. Then also the issue of creation of green jobs. This is something that is coming in after an assessment on green jobs that we have just completed. And I think one of the biggest issues has been around issues of resilience. And we want to see how the issues of circularity issues can improve resilience to climate change impacts. And beyond that, and most importantly, the engagement with the marginalized groups, especially women and children. So we want to see the role of women, the role of children, and also the role of the youths in terms of circularity issues. So this is something that we have prioritized as government and is slowly also becoming a policy issue. So going on the ground in terms of the pilot, we have agreed as a country that this is something that we need to give high priority. We have had engagements with our UNDP country office. We had our entry meeting around July, which was also followed up with an intense training that was held with support from the UNDP and other partners on the sidelines of the Africa Climate Week in Nairobi. Then at the stage where we are now focusing more on the planning, and our planning is revolving around the piloting of the two stages of the toolbox, one of which is conducting problem assessment using the current available data, and also defining the circular economy policy response. So basically, these are the two stages that we have given high priority for the meantime in terms of this pilot.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'd also like to use this opportunity to say thank you to UNDP for putting value on youth voices like myself. He kept on mentioning it, to be a part of this year's COP. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I happen to be part of the 2 youth delegates from Ghana, sponsored by the UNDP and AfriWork initiative. So I'm very grateful. Thank you. We'll move to Mr. Pham Kwan. Please allow me to turn to you now. Yes. How do you intend on piloting the toolbox in Vietnam? And what successes or lessons learned have you experienced when it comes to assessing, planning, and implementing circular economy initiatives in your country? And how are you, or will you, link this to your NDC?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and for inviting me to share with you about the current status of the circular economy in Vietnam. And I'm from the agriculture sector, so my answers are also in focus on agriculture. Yes, we will do implement the toolbox as a pilot project in Vietnam for agriculture sector. Why? Because agriculture, this is a backbone of our economy, and also this is where this is a source of to provide and deliver the food security and also to to provide a livelihood for about the 40% of the population, as well as agriculture also occupied about 70 yes. And another reason for agriculture to be selected, as the agriculture also contributed to about 20% of the gas emissions as well, and the agriculture sector also has been told to generate about waste and also and byproduct as well. For example, according to statistics, Vietnam will also generate about nearly 175 million tons of residues from the crop production, and about nearly 70 million tons of solid waste from the livestock production. And another reason for me to choose agriculture, for us to choose agriculture, is because you know that currently agriculture of Vietnam has been developed, mostly we focus on the expanding the land areas, the cropping areas, and also the intensifying the use of agriculture inputs like fertilizers and seeds and so on, and water, without taking into account considerable account of the use labor, water and land. So what I mean is the productivity of the agriculture need to be considered. So for me, from my observation, a circular economy can be considered as the key to improve our agriculture towards the more sustainability and accountability of our agriculture sector. And in line with this, the government of Vietnam also adopted the strategy for sustainable agriculture and rural development until 2030, in which circular economy has been incorporated, and in order to improve our agriculture as well. So we also select on agriculture of the circular economy in the two sectors, like crop and the first on the crop and also the livestock as well. Now, regarding your question about the best practice, actually, because we are at a very early stage of the circular economy, we haven't got any lessons or practice available to be consolidated. But from my understanding, we can see some of the best practice can be used. For example, like the use of the organic fertilizers. That is we can take advantage and take full use of the byproducts and also the waste products generated from agriculture to make organic fertilizers. So this is also very promising areas. Another example of the use of the byproduct is, as far as I know, that some brewery like Heineken also they use waste rice husk and also the agriculture byproducts to use for the heat. For the heating in the brewery process. So this can be considered as a good practice as well. And another area is for water use as well, because you know that in Vietnam farmers also all small scale production, so we need to identify in the circular economy any practice or any tools which is friendly user for farmers. And so in this regard, I think a smart use of water or any tools available on the dripping, drainage or whatever should be consolidated to become the best practice as well for farmers. So anything now regarding I can tell you more about the best practice. However, what I want to stress is currently the knowledge of the circular economy in Vietnam is at a very early stage, even at the public and the private sector as well. So the knowledge that we have the knowledge, however, it is very how to say, not in a systematic way and not in comprehensive way. It is very compartmentary, yes, and here and there. But what we need is to a tool or a way approach, which the holistic approach to conduct the circular economy. So in this way, I can see that the tool can help us to increase through the capacity building, some kind of the pilot programs. We can have a better understanding, and even as a result, this is very important, is to promote the investment and funding from the private sector. So this is enormous resources that we can take advantage. That's to work with the public sector to do on that. So is it I address your question?
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pham Kwan. And last but certainly not the least, Ilka Hertz. I got it right this time.
Yes,
thank you so much for
pronouncing
joining.
it just like a German.
Oh, wow. Thank you for joining us today. We know that this topic is a very important one for Germany, and would like to know how you think we countries, UN organizations, and others can enhance international cooperation to build circular economy into revised NDCs.
Yes, so first of all, let me thank UNDP, UNFCCC, and also, of course, UNEP for having invited me to this really important side event. Working for the Ministry of Environment of Germany, I'm really convinced that these kinds of side events and ideas that are trying to tackle not only the climate crisis, but also the biodiversity crisis and the pollution crisis all at once are of utmost importance. We are convinced that, of course, energy transition is one key measure we have to take, talking to my Dutch colleague here just earlier on, but it's not enough. And circular economy is one of those solutions that will help us really tackle all three kinds of crises and continue living on this planet. And so this practical toolbox actually will help us, I think, to implement this, because it's one thing, and this is actually what my minister will be doing. She's arriving tonight and she will be fighting for a better integration of circular economy in the global stocktake, and also in the future NDCs, actually, as well as nature-based solutions, of course. So the fighting on the political level is one thing, but then, of course, implementing it on the ground is the other thing. And we've been discussing earlier on, so how does it work? It sounds good, but how do we do this? And this will bring the solution. But maybe coming back to your question of international cooperation is, of course, key to this whole endeavor, and we're convinced of this. We need to strengthen knowledge sharing, share best practices, have joint research and development initiatives in order to really, pool our ideas and best practices and then learn from this. And then, of course, we also have to talk about finance, because this costs money in the beginning. So we need to create financial mechanisms and incentives, such as, for example, international funds or grants, which can support countries in implementing circular practices. At this point, I would like to mention our International Climate Initiative. It's a small funding tool that Germany has, but we're trying exactly this, to find integrated solutions to tackle climate and biodiversity crisis. And we have a thematic call, we call it like that. We always propose propose new topics, and one of them is exactly on this subject, how to integrate circular economy in the NDCs. So yes, maybe who's interested might have a look in this. I know that Timon worked very hard on this, my colleague here. So what else? Lastly, maybe also the governance side is important. So international agreements and framework should explicitly recognize and prioritize those circular economy goals. We do need action on the ground, but we also need legal frameworks. Yeah, so maybe this answers your first question. And
Yes,
thanks.
thank you very much, Madam Hill-Kids. Clearly, the toolbox is practical and can elevate the finance needed from the private sector and support countries on how to integrate circularity into NDCs. Thank you so much for that take. As we come to the close of the session, I would like to thank you all, our esteemed speakers, and all of our guests here. Thank you for sharing your insights, especially to you, our panelists. And a huge thank you to you for taking time to join us during your very busy schedule during COP. Given the success of the first phase of the project, which, as Cassie mentioned, is just the starting point, UNDP, UNEP, UNFCCC stand ready to further support countries in their efforts to accelerate climate action on the ground through circular economy, while ensuring a just and climate resilient transition. With this, be sure to keep your ears on the ground as they share plans next year for an exciting next phase of the project. Thank you once again, and see you again soon. Thank you. Can we have our first panelists join us on stage? So we take a group photo. Thank you.
This is the floor chat.